All right, welcome to this video. This is Trent Grigorchik from the Second Act. And in this video, I am going to walk through how to onboard kind of quickly to Boldin, which used to be New Retirement, and just kind of giving you my perspective as a financial advisor, how to kind of think about the platform, some areas that I specifically use quite often with my clients, areas where I think there's a lot of value, some areas for improvement, and then some kind of quirks and things that hopefully will get you a little bit up to speed as quickly as possible. Before I go further, if you are looking to get access to Boldin, the PlannerPlus. One good way to do it is to join the Second Act community. And you can go to joinsecondAct.com and join the community, and you actually can get access to Boldin PlannerPlus through the group that we have. There's over 125 members and growing of pre-retirees and retirees that are looking to secure their retirement with more confidence and take a educational approach to securing their retirement. So the Boldin tool is a common financial planning tool that a lot of our members use and clients use. And it's improved over the years. I've been using it for, I think since 2018, maybe 2019. And it is a fantastic tool that I like to describe as a light version of financial planning. So it, I would say, accomplishes 90 to 95% of what most people need to know if they're on track to retire, how much they can spend, what's the probability of running out of money and when to adjust, are there any areas to optimize or improve. And there are some limitations, but for the most part, it is a fantastic platform. And especially if you go directly to them, the price for the platform is extremely reasonable for the for what you get underneath the hood as far as the power of planning. But again, if you want to, the best way to get access to Boldin could potentially be through the Second Act community, where you get other tools that are a little bit more detailed and go a little bit deeper that complement Boldin as well. So once you get started, you're going to log in and it'll take you through a kind of like a step-by-step. You can kind of fly through that. I actually like to go through the planning and data entry from this view. So don't feel like you have to go through that initial onboarding, the questionnaire, and get everything right, because as soon as you click submit, you can, simply go to the menu and you can collapse this and clean it up a bit. But this, under the My Plan area, this is where all of the plan inputs reside. And the overview area, which is what I'm on now, kind of gives a snapshot of your entire situation in one place, kind of like a one-page plan. And it'll give you your net worth. It'll track it month over month and the projected net worth over time. You can kind of hover and see the difference between the savings and real estate, and if you have debt, your probability of success. So it brings a lot of the key areas of your financial plan together into one page. It'll even show you some potential opportunities such as Roth conversions, and it will show you the average income in retirement and your forecasted average expenses and how those are, kind of aligned or misaligned. So this is a really good area to kind of get up to date with maybe some things that you haven't done yet. The coach suggestions will kind of nudge you to do certain things that you might not have completed yet. So you can always click into there and see, what the system is flagging as far as areas that you need to give more attention. Roth conversions, you can launch the Roth Conversion Explorer, which I just mentioned, dive into cash flow, your income and expenses, analyze your Social Security to see when the best time to claim might be. So it really gives you a digest of what's going on, and then you can click in through any of these modules to do a little bit more planning. So whenever I get on a coaching call, I provide financial coaching and financial advice to clients. And so depending on the relationship that I am within will depend on how deeply we go into Boldin. But when it comes to the starting point, it's almost always the overview, and then we go deeper from there. So let's go back step just a little bit to the input of data. So under the menu here, you'll see, the summary. This kind of gives you a overview of the different modules that you can then click into here. It's just kind of in a card format. What I like about this area is it gives you how complete your plan is as far as going through all of the different modules. So this kind of, sometimes when you get into these planning tools, you can kind of get lost with, did I input everything? Did I miss anything? Is there blank input? So this really does a good job of giving you a kind of like a one-page visual of where am I in the planning process and what areas might need my attention, right? The first thing really to get right is, hey, let's go into your profile here. If you go into the account settings, just make sure your personal details are correct, right? So birth month, birth year. That way, when you forecast retirement, it all is kind of aligned. And if you have a spouse, make sure that their information is inputted there. So this keeps you on track during the onboarding process. And even when I'm helping my financial coaching clients kind of navigate as they build their own retirement plan, this kind of gives me an idea of where we might need to spend a little bit more time with coaching, and what we might want to dive into and what they might need a little bit more guidance and clarity on. Okay, there is also a milestone area down here where you can kind of see on a timeline when certain things happen, which I think is actually kind of useful because it paints the story of how things will, your goals are reached and when things will start over time from a year and an age perspective, which for me, I think that's just really helpful. If you decide to link your accounts, and you can do that by going to the accounts and assets, and what you'll do is go to the savings area here, and what you'll do next is add an account, and you can just select anything. Let's just do investments next, and let's give this a Schwab. Oops. This here, just kind of a pro tip. If it's all equities, you're probably want to lean towards, you're going to want to lean towards the capital gains tax treatment. If this is something like a high interest account, cash management account, ordinary income is what you'll probably want to focus on. And then click save. Once you click save, you can then go into that account. And then connect it. So what you'll do from here is then, click add new financial institution. This is I'm in a, hypothetical client account, so this doesn't work for me. But what you'll do next is you will link your account here and search for, Schwab in this situation. All right. So this is a nice way to, kind of get that account on the board, and then you can connect it. But the most important thing really initially when you're building a plan is you can connect it, but don't get stuck on that. Sometimes they can be a little bit quirky and they won't necessarily load right away, or the connection will break. But the quickest thing to do is to, round it to the nearest, 10,000 or 5,000 as far as the current balance. And then you can always link it if you feel like you need to change this too often. Obviously, the benefit of linking is so that you don't have to update the value regularly. But to be completely honest, there isn't a whole lot of value beyond that. And that is because the system does not look at your underlying holdings to come up with the rate of return that the forecasting is going to use. So the only benefit is that this balance updates regularly. And you have to kind of do everything else yourself. As far as the cost basis, that doesn't pull through. The underlying holdings and asset allocation, that doesn't pull through. So you have to choose based off of how you know that account is invested, what is the rate of return that best aligns with how that account is invested. So just keep that in mind. The quickest thing is just to manually input, and then you can link it if you feel like it's too cumbersome. Okay, so link your accounts, make sure your profile information is correct. This is where you can input your primary residence. So if you currently own a home and if you have a mortgage, this is where you can input that information. You can even really quickly right underneath it change like future changes to your primary residence or purchase something, maybe like a second home, or maybe you're going to move from the Midwest to Southwest Florida, which is where I'm from and live. So you can model that out really easily, and then the system will automatically model the sale and the purchase based on the information that you input here. So that's really nice how it's just kind of like step by step. And they put that out there without you having to think of, well, where do I model that scenario out? How do I, model a relocation? They kind of tee it up for you and make it easy. If you own any other real estate, like an investment property that generates income, yada, yada, you would, you can do that all here. Any non-mortgage debts, line of credits, credit card debt, auto loans, those sorts of things, you can put that here. This is where you can modify your income, Social Security. You can have the system estimate kind of, what that might be. You can, and, based off of the income that you use, the system will kind of estimate what that could be or could look like. But, the best practice there is to log into ssa.gov and look at your forecasted benefit at each age, and then make sure you choose the appropriate timing as far as the claiming age and what your benefit is at FRA or full retirement age. If you have any pensions, annuities, if you expect an inheritance down the road, this is where you can do that. Again, they make it really easy just to kind of, they tee up what you might not be thinking of inputting at this stage of onboarding, as opposed to, inputting all these things and then having these scenarios in your head and trying to figure out, well, where do I go to model this scenario, right? So they're already kind of teeing up potential scenarios that you might think of with the relocation or a potential windfall, from an inheritance from your grandparents or parents or relatives or whoever it might be. Your expenses, they give you two methods for inputting your expenses. I'm always an advocate to keep it simple and lump together your general recurring expenses, and then maybe isolate some things that are either temporary or more one-off expenses, like hey, I need a new roof, or I'm going to buy a new car, or maybe you would model your go-go years. The first 7 years of retirement, you're going to spend 25% more, and then you're going to like ramp down or decrease over time and taper down. Your general recurring expenses, what is always going to be there through starting now through the rest of my retirement. And then you can layer on one-off expenses or other recurring expenses that might have an expiration. And then you can add in, it automatically adds in, what your mortgage is, and you can modify the inputs of that here. The detailed budgeter gets much more granular. So if you want to, or if you already have a budget made, I would say that maybe you could dive into this straight away. If you don't have a budget that you are really fluent with or really comfortable with, I would honestly skip this right away. And that's because I just don't want people to get too bogged down in overthinking and getting too granular. You can always ease into a little bit more of a, detailed budget later on. But the most important thing is to get the macro number right. And then if you feel you need to create a different budget, then you can dive into the line items, so to speak. So let's see here. Then you can add in other medical expenses, healthcare expenses, long-term care. You can tell the system how you plan on paying for long-term care, money flows, contributions. You can tell the system, hey, I want to save excess income to my investment portfolio. Or, maybe you're just going to save some of it, not all of it. Maybe you're going to err on the side of caution and say, hey, if there's, let's just say $50,000 of unspent income, I want to save 80% of it. So as opposed to, that $50,000 just going poof, let's just assume I save 40 and $10,000 goes poof and gets spent on something that I'm not too sure what it will be. You can list your legacy goal here, and the system will model that into its forecasting. You can go through a checklist here for estate planning documents. The rate assumptions, this is an area where you can change, inflation, medical, Social Security, COLA. Off the shelf, it's fine. I don't see any major things this is based off of, historical averages. So unless you want to run a scenario where inflation is super high for a temporary period of time, or for, let's say high inflation, low COLA, something like that weird happening, even though it's, supposed to be 1-for-1. If you wanted to get kind of creative with your own modeling, yeah, you can do that here. But for most situations, unless you're stress testing your retirement plan, I don't see really a need to tinker with this too much, unless we're kind of in an extreme scenario, or you think an extreme scenario could happen, which it could, but it's all hypothetical. And the only other thing I'm going to dive into are these two things here. So insights, this is where you can dive into more of cash flow of all of the inputs in forecasting. So you can go through and see what your net worth will look like over time. You can, or in this situation, this is current net worth, projected net worth. It'll show you how, that changes over time here based on your plan. And then this is a forward-looking one. You can dive into IRMA. You can dive into your lifetime cash flow. You can dive into taxes. So there's a lot of different modules that you can dive into and get a little bit more granular. And I'm very impressed with the level of the depth that you can actually get into. And this is a consumer facing tool. And oftentimes the consumer facing tools really don't provide a lot of horsepower compared to advisor tools. And it really does a good job of giving you everything that you need and really nothing that you don't need. And then so there's a lot of, this is all reporting in different graphs that you can kind of look at under insights. And then the Explorer here, this is if what if that, different spending in retirement, if we convert 150K to Roth over the next few years, things like that. You can stress test, you can have a lower return, live longer. So this is kind of off the shelf what if scenarios, which is sometimes useful just to kind of see how from a high level different things might impact your plan. Here's a Monte Carlo where you can see a forecast of your portfolio, your projected savings over time, and see the 90th percentile versus the 10th percentile and the median and everything in between. Social Security Explorer, you can kind of walk through to see what could be the most optimal Social Security strategy for you. And then lastly, the Roth conversion feature. This is actually a really powerful tool that you can use to test certain conversion strategies, such as filling up to certain brackets or converting a certain amount, or avoiding IRMA, or paying taxes on the conversion out of pocket versus from the conversion itself. So there's a lot of there's simple ways to do it, and then you can actually get a little bit more granular, but that's for another video because that's a completely separate video on its own. So I hope this was somewhat helpful. I really didn't want to go deep on this. I just wanted to kind of give a screen share of what does Boldin look like today. What are some things that I like about the tool? How do I think about onboarding to the tool? Some things that you might not have known if you are looking to sign up for Boldin directly. So if you found this video helpful at all, give it a like, comment, ask any questions. I'll try to reply in the comments if any questions you might have. But if you haven't heard of the Second Act community, go to joinsecondact.com. Again, that's joinsecondact.com. And there will be a link somewhere in this video or in my profile within my channel. Subscribe, like, comment, and you can join that community to get more insight on using Boldin, communicate with peers that are going through the exact kind of transition as you, going from working and saving and accumulating to retiring and spending and decumulation, and how do I create my retirement paycheck. And a lot of the members of the Second Act community are exploring the guardrails approach and using Income Lab, which is a tool they get access to when they join when they subscribe to the Second Act community. And so these are all types of common scenarios that over 120 members are actually actively working through. So if you want to join the cohort of like-minded peers, go to joinsecondact.com and we can have a conversation in there. Thanks for joining me on this video. I hope to post more tutorials and how-tos around Boldin and Right Capital and Income Lab, and sharing some tech reviews and some best practices around how DIYers and self-directed investors, and maybe just pre-retirees who are curious about building a retirement plan and just having more of an understanding of how the plan is built. Hopefully these videos can add some value to your retirement. Thanks for joining me today. I will see you in the next video.